What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming to you from the Petersen Events Center after the Panthers just knocked off Canisius by a final score of 82-71. Thank you for joining me for another Inside Pitt post-game report. Like I said, Panthers picked up a win. I wouldn't really call it a big win. I thought it was a somewhat impressive win for a couple of reasons, and we'll get into those reasons in a minute. First of all, I apologize for any maybe lacking sound quality. Left my podcasting equipment at home, so just relying on the old headphones right now. But let's get right into it. I mean, look, I think Canisius. You might look at them. You might look at their record, and you might look at just like where they stand in KenPom and everything. And this is obviously a team that Pitt should beat by double digits, if not more. But they got tested a little bit. Canisius has a really good offense. They're efficient. It's modern. They shoot a ton of threes and they shoot them efficiently. They move the ball really well. And the Panthers got challenged. You could see that right away from in the first half and even deep into the second half. There are a lot of teams in college basketball right now who are losing these types of games. I think you look around the country at a bunch of different teams. Arkansas getting knocked off by UNC Green or Wilmington by UNC system school that does not play at Chapel Hill. I'm trying to think of. I mean, James Madison is a good team, but that's not a team that Michigan State should lose to. Louisville. I mean, dropping games left and right to buy games left and right. I mean, there are tons of teams around the country that are losing games like this to mid majors where they don't come out with their best effort and a team gets them for it. Power five teams, that is. The Panthers haven't dropped a game like that yet. They have been real solid in these games that they are supposed to win, which you can take that as a positive or not, but it's the reality is that they are not losing these types of games that a lot of other teams are. They look to be in position to. They were down at halftime. I think they trailed by as many as 7 in the second half, but they found a way to win. And they are avoiding kind of some of those ugly losses that have plagued capable teams in the past, but also have plagued other teams as well. And they are avoiding the kinds of losses that will severely affect their NCAA tournament resume. I mean, losing to Florida, losing to Missouri, losing to Clemson, like those are, I don't know if explainable is the right word, but they are understandable, like they are, in each of those cases might have just lost to a team that's better than them. I don't think that's necessarily true about Missouri, but I think Florida and Clemson are definitely better than this team. They lose to them in not a competitive game against Florida, but a competitive game against Clemson. And, those aren't ugly losses. This would have been an ugly loss, but Pitt avoided that. And they did it in a few ways. And we'll dive into that a little bit more like right now. I thought it was interesting, kind of right from the jump, the way Jeff Capel handled his lineups. He had a much quicker trigger going to the bench. I think his first sub came with I think exactly 2 minutes gone in the first half. He subbed out Federico Federico for Guillermo Diaz Graham, I'm pretty sure. No, excuse me. He subbed out both Federico and Zach Austin for William Jeffress and Guillermo Diaz Graham. He experimented with a bunch of different things in this game. Like I said, they were quick subs, they were plentiful subs. Jalen Lowe played 13 minutes in the first half, thereabout. He played 14 minutes in all. I believe the vast majority of those came in the first half. He also didn't come in to the game until I believe the 13-minute mark, which is a lot later than he usually comes in. He's usually one of those first subs off of the bench. Yeah, he didn't play at all in the second half. I mean, he used a lot of it was kind of the opposite for Jorge Diaz Graham. He saw a lot of action in the second half after not really playing at all in the first half. And the benches, it's staying pretty long, but you can tell I think Jeff Capel was a little annoyed just with how the game started and was just kind of tinkering with things, looking for the right combination of guys. He didn't really know where to find it until kind of the closing stretch, until the home stretch when Pitt went on a couple of runs to really separate themselves. When you look at those subs specifically, who we brought in and when, taking out Zach Austin and Fetty, putting in Guillermo and Will. I think those are kind of, you can take those and isolate them, isolate those pairings. So uh, Austin for Jeffress. It was clear that they needed a defensive spark. They needed better rebounding. That's all that Jeffress provides you. And I mean, and the other thing is, and I mean, and Jeff Capel said this pretty explicitly in the post game press conference. Zach Austin's not playing very well right now. Just hasn't, save for a couple games here and there, been the guy that they were expecting. He hasn't shot the three very well. He hasn't, in this game at least, he didn't block shots. He didn't rebound very well at all either. I mean, he's shooting just 21%, excuse me, from three. He had been averaging 1.6 blocks per game, but just, those are splash plays, and his defense needs to be better more consistently, not just when, there's a massive block, that he can go take for himself. That's what Capel said. I mean, he said his motor needs to be better. It needs to be more consistent. It needs to be running all of the time in order for Austin to kind of be at his best. And right now, he's not giving that. Jeffress, on the other hand, is kind of the complete antithesis of that. Maybe not giving you a ton of stuff offensively today. He did knock down a couple threes, just the fifth time in his career that he's made multiple 3-pointers in a game, but he also rebounded really effectively. 4 rebounds. Oh, no, excuse me, that's the wrong guy. I'm looking at the wrong thing. He had 3 rebounds. I mean, he did a lot of good stuff against West Virginia in the rebounding department. And obviously, he's probably the best defender on the team. So, I mean, Jeffress earned his way onto the court for doing everything that Austin really wasn't. And we'll get to that in a minute, but I think you might see some lineup changes coming over the next, well, Pitt doesn't play for another week or so. So you might not see him soon, but I think they're coming for that reason. I mean, seeing how quick and willing he was to go to the bench today, how quick and willing he was to tinker with the lineups, and then combined with his post-game comments, I think you're going to see some lineup changes coming soon, because the other thing is, I mean, and this kind of leads me into my next point, is that the front court is struggling mightily. Federico has just not been the same guy that he was last year. He's not really playing with, and this was a big word, force today in the post-game press conferences from Jeff Capel. He wants Federico to play with more force, and that's kind of a catch-all term for being aggressive but under control, and being strong with the ball. Being confident in your movements and knowing where you're supposed to be, and then kind of playing as aggressive as possible within kind of the rules of the game. And Federico's not doing that right now. He's not rebounding very well. He's not blocking shots. He's not defending individually very well, and he's not finishing at the rim. I think that's the biggest part of it. It's just he's not finishing at the rim very well. He's not going up strong through defenders. He's not able to finish through contact. And then on top of all that, he's not making his free throws either. So there's really just very little reason to keep Federico on the floor right now. And that's what you kind of saw in the first half. And, to Federico's credit, he played much better in the second half, but you need that consistently. You need that every minute that he's on the floor. He's got to be able to do the things he did in the second half, which was defend much better, finish around the rim, finish some lobs. He had an offensive rebound as well, made some nice passes, but got to be able to do that stuff all the time. He's just been too weak with the ball and defensively, so far this season to really feel good about giving him a starting spot and letting him keep that starting spot. I don't think Guillermo Diaz-Graham really gives you much more in that department as far as rebounding or defense, or just general force. But look, if Eddie's not giving you that stuff and he's kind of being a little bit of a zero offensively, at least Guillermo gives you, I think, a better offensive threat, someone who can be at least a little more diverse, knock down a three, can handle the ball just a little bit. Like, he gives you some more stuff offensively that I feel like warrants maybe, with your starting center not giving you any of the things that are kind of his calling cards. I think it's, perfectly warranted to think about a lineup change, think about, what Diaz-Graham can give you that's different, and how he can kind of buoy you while Rico kind of gets his footing underneath him. It's just, Jeff Capel put it pretty plainly that Federico's just not playing very well right now. He's not playing as well as he's capable of, and they need more from him if he's going to stay in the lineup. It was despite the win, and it was a win that Capel said he was pretty proud of, he was pretty aggressive and pretty forward and honest, saying that, we just need more from these guys. So, Federico and Austin are two names that you got to watch moving forward. Two members of the starting lineup just kind of not living up to who Pitt thought they would be, and so they might be on their way and might be on their way to a bench role coming sometime soon. Moving on a little bit, Pitt did something a little, among the many things that Jeff Capel kind of experimented with in this game. Wasn't just lineups, but he also employed a zone look, so kind of a zone defense look. It was kind of new. I noticed they ran it for maybe one possession against West Virginia. I noticed it was at the end of the end of the first half. Pitt had scored with just a few seconds left. Maybe I want to say 10 or 12, maybe 8. And it was clear they went to the zone look to throw West Virginia off, to try to make them think a little bit more, and take them out of the good flow that they were in offensively. This was a more consistent. They played it for most of the second half. Started with a 1-2-2 kind of full court press. They put Bub Carrington at the top. They had Jorge Diaz Graham and Leggett as kind of that second line, and then Blake Henson and sometimes it was Federico, sometimes it was Guillermo on that back line. And it was really effective. So, I mean, they gave up 41 points in the first half. After moving to the zone and employing that a little bit more, they held Canisius to 30 points. In the second half, they forced some turnovers, and they were able to turn those turnovers into points off of that. They used Jorge Diaz Graham in a really interesting way, just kind of at the top of the zone. He was there to disrupt passing lanes, keep the ball from swinging side to side. He got, I think, 2 steals, if not a few more. I apologize, I'm looking at my stats right now. He got 3 steals and was really effective in that spot. And then as the ball kind of got stuck on one side, because you have this nuclear deterrent in Guillermo Diaz Graham, I'm putting my arms all the way out because, just to kind of demonstrate the wingspan that he has and the way that he's able to disrupt passing lanes. And with the ball on kind of being stuck on one side of the court, Pitt was able to trap. And then you got, guys playing free safety. So when the Canisius players are throwing the ball out, just looking for a way to get out of the trap, there were multiple Pitt defenders there to come up with steals and turn them into transition opportunities. Additionally, they kind of, and this was coming from the coaches and the players, that it kind of halted the movement that really made Canisius' offense really effective in the first half, made them slow down, think a little bit more, and then ultimately really limited the opportunities they had from three. Canisius made 7 3-pointers in the first half. They shot 41% from 3-point distance. In the opening 20 minutes, they shot just 7 3-pointers in all, and made only 2 of them in the second half. That's 28.6%. So some big improvements in the second half, kind of based off that zone look. And it's interesting to think about how Pitt might try to employ that going forward. Jeff Capel said it's something that they've ran sparingly. They practice it quite a bit, but just haven't run it in games. And I wonder if, it is obviously a good thing to have kind of in their bag of tricks, but you wonder how much more it'll come out at different points this season. A couple other news and notes, just small things. Seemed like Blake Henson tweaked his ankle in the first half. Was limping around on it pretty heavily and grimacing pretty hard for a little bit, but stayed in the game and was able to finish the game out and played really well. Another 20-point game, 26 points for Henson tonight, 5 rebounds, just 1 turnover, 7-7 from the free throw line. Played a little bit differently tonight offensively, kind of bouncing off of that. Only 4 threes, 3-point attempts. He made 3 of them, but 8 of 13 from the floor. Most of his shots coming from inside the arc. That's a little different. Just not something that we've seen from Henson. He said they were running him off the 3-point line, but I think it's proof that those improvements he talked about in the offseason are really kind of being put to use in games. It was more than just talk, that he can now put the ball on the deck a little bit, that he has a mid-range game, that he's not just kind of, if the threes aren't falling for me, then I'm pretty easy to defend. He can really do a lot of different things now, which is good. I think, like I said, William Jeffress shooting the ball was really good. He gave them a big lift with 2 threes in the second half. Jorge Diaz Graham with 3 steals, but also had 5 points, had an assist as well, or two assists, excuse me. I thought he played a really good game. Bub Carrington is kind of like back now. it would appear. 16 points, only 2 of 9 shooting from 3, but 4 rebounds and 5 assists. He kind of survived that early freshman wall that he hit, and seems to be in a really good place for the Panthers right now. So lots of good stuff to take away from this one. It was impressive how the Panthers closed this game, even with maybe an unimpressive start. They get 7 days off. The players going through finals, as is everyone else at Pitt. So they get a week off. They don't play again until next Saturday against South Carolina State. So I'll be back then to deliver another post-game report following that game. But appreciate you all tuning into this one. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@InsideThePanthers, and follow all of our reporting at InsideThePanthers.com. Appreciate you all tuning in.